at all. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Thanks for accepting my invitation and
Yep,
accepting to talk with me.
no problem at all.
So I thought to introduce you to my audience.
Okay. So my name's Benjamin Cross. I'm an author from the United Kingdom. I'm living in Wales, which is in the west of the UK. I got a young family, and when I'm not writing, I work as an archaeologist. So I study the past. And Colony, which you can hopefully see behind me, is is my debut novel. So it's my first novel, and it's going to be published in January next year, and it's available to pre-order now. So exciting times.
Awesome. So before talking about your writing and about your work, we'll talk. You said you are an archaeologist.
Yes, indeed.
So can you tell me more about it?
Yeah, sure. So, being an archaeologist is a fantastic job. It's a really interesting career to be involved in, and I'm very lucky to have been able to remain involved. Effectively, what we do is we study the remains of the past that are either buried underneath the soil or that are manifest within sort of standing monuments, standing stones, and earthen burial mounds and things of that nature. We basically dig a hole in them. We have a look what's there, and then we make a thorough empirical scientific record of what we find. It is an honour. It's all of our heritage. You know, it's not just mine. I'm just one of the lucky ones. I get to see it, and record it, hopefully sympathetically, and tell you guys about it. Basically, we get to learn something more about ourselves as a race and as a species by doing that. So yeah, good fun.
So how many years you worked as archaeologist?
So let's see, I first started in the mid noughties, so around sort of 2005-ish, I guess. And I've been involved ever since. There's a kind of a sequence to it if you stay in archaeology for long enough. So you'll start off in the field. You start off as somebody that does a lot of the actual physical labour, so the digging and the recording and the rest of it. And then as you sort of progress in your career, you start to do the reporting and the management and the analysis and that sort of thing, you know. So at this stage, I've been involved for about 15 years. So I'm more over towards the management end of the spectrum now, which is a shame because the fun stuff is the digging. So I kind of wish I was still in the field, really.
Okay, so what are your achievements as an archaeologist?
Sorry, say again, Si.
What are your achievements as an archaeologist?
So, by achievements, I guess interesting things that I've found or been involved in.
Yeah.
I've dug on sites. I spent a lot of my early career digging on large jobs that were recording archaeology before big gas pipelines went into the ground. And also before other big sort of commercial and residential developments. And I've found all sorts of different things over the years. Burials, lots and lots of burials. Some of them have been placed in the ground with gifts. And it's always interesting to come across that sort of thing and save it from being destroyed by whatever the development is going to be. You have to deal with it very sensitively, and what will tend to happen is you'll take the remains off site and then they will be reburied on sacred ground or treated as per whoever's religion it is. So that's quite an interesting thing that I've been involved with. Other things, Roman buildings and temples, Saxon burials, Saxon huts, prehistoric buildings, you name it.
Okay. So have you found any minerals?
Minerals, are you asking me about gold?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
are, aren't you? No, I haven't been lucky enough to find any gold. It's very rare to find gold. As you can imagine, people were as careful back then with gold as they are today, so they tended to keep it safe. Um, One of the few places where you will find gold quite often altogether is in what we call a hoard. So it's basically where society has been in a state of turmoil, or there's been some kind of war going on, and in order to safeguard their assets, a family has dug a hole and just buried all their wealth in it, all of their gold and everything else. And then obviously they haven't come back for one reason or another. And so we find it in a particular concentration then, but it's extremely rare.
So,
I have found some silver coins though. So I found a little bit of silver.
okay, so that belongs to government or to you?
Well, technically it belongs to the landowner, but by law, they have to sell it to the government for an agreed price,
Okay.
unless they've signed away the rights to anything that's recovered off the land, which can sometimes happen. But for example, we have a lot of metal detectorists, so they will go onto somebody's land with the landowner's permission, and then if they find anything, it belongs to the landowner. But quite often the landowner will have an arrangement with them where they'll split the value with them. So if they earn any money from it, they'll split it, but they don't have to.
So, I'm from India, so can I say that Indian land and UK land and US land and Australian land are different, and we find different things in different lands?
You find very different things in different places. I mean, I've been to, let's see, some of the places that I've seen excavations are in Peru, in South America, and the culture there is very different. The objects that people were using, the things that they were eating, the types of houses that they lived in. All very, very different to the sorts of objects and buildings that were being used over here. And they would be very different as well from the types of objects and architecture that you would find in India. I haven't done any digging at all in India. I'd love to. I think it would be fascinating to look at the Indus culture. But yeah, I haven't had that opportunity yet, which is a shame.
So, why this thought colony? Why colony? What made you to write colony?
So I've always been a writer. When I was very young, I was influenced a lot by my parents, who are extremely voracious readers. They were always reading books. We had bookcases everywhere, and I don't know. I guess somewhere deep down, I just saw, the joy that it brought to them and the satisfaction that they got out of it, and it occurred to me that it was a good thing. I suppose it's as simple as that psychologically. But anyway, I started reading at quite an early age, and then I started writing as well, just sketches about, me and my friends and what we've been up to. And then that turned into sort of bigger stories about made up people, and then gradually the idea for colony sort of took root. And that was probably late noughties for me. It was a long time ago when it first occurred to me. So probably about 2009 or so. And then I just sort of chipped away at it since then, really. Working as well and having kids and various other things, all the things that get in the way. Yeah, and then recently completed it. And yes, so it's going to be published next year, which is fantastic.
It is not yet published.
No, it's due for publication in January, 28th of January, but you can pre-order it now. So if you go online, you can pre-order it and it will be delivered as soon as it's published.
Is it on Amazon?
It is. Yes, it is. I think at the moment it's only up there as a paperback, but there will be an ebook as well. So there'll be an ebook available if you use Kindle, for example, or however you prefer to read.
I think you took this name from the job that you did before, colony.
Well, it's kind of, yeah, the story behind the name, as it were. Yeah, it's difficult not to give too much away, but it has a number of different meanings. I mean, we're in a place. So the setting for the book is an island, which is part of a land called Franz Josef Land. It's an archipelago, so it's a cluster of islands, which is just off the north of Russia, and it's basically part of the Arctic. It's it's dark for half the year, light for half the year, roughly speaking, and extremely cold most of the time. And it was one of the last places on Earth that people actually went to, that they discovered, because it was so difficult to get there and it was such a dangerous voyage that not many people made it. So I guess one of the senses of colony is that we're moving out there. It carries this philosophy of we found somewhere new or found somewhere unexplored, and we're kind of putting our mark on it, as it were. And then there's another sense to it as well, which is a bit more literal, and that relates to some of the species that the main characters find when they actually get onto the island. So yeah, it's a multi-layered answer for a multi-layered title.
So, who are going to connect with this story?
Sorry, say again, Si.
Who are going to connect with this story?
Okay, so it's in genre terms, it's an action thriller. It's the sort of thing that I like to read. There's plenty of sort of excitement, plenty of suspense, plenty of fast-paced action sequences. I think anybody that enjoys any of those things, I would hope, would enjoy Colony. And one of the things that I tried to do with it as well is to sort of write it in a slightly different style from how a lot of other action thriller books are written. So as a genre, the books tend to be more about the story, so more character driven and plot driven than by the writing. And then the reverse of that would be literary fiction, obviously, where it's more about the writing than the story, arguably. So with this book, what I tried to do was to flesh it out, basically, with some more sort of poetic language, and give it a little bit more breadth than you might normally expect in an action thriller novel. So I think it would appeal to people who like a sort of better standard of writing, but are also interested in being on the edge of their seat and wondering what's going to come next.
How much time you took to write this book?
Well, a long time. a long time. As I say, I had the first seed of an idea was planted back in sort of 2008 or 9 even. I didn't really do much with it at the start. I just sort of put down some notes and put it to one side, really, because I was studying at the time as well as working. But then I guess it must have been sort of the early noughties when I remembered that I'd started it and I just couldn't let it go. So I just felt the need to actually at least start it, if not finish it. So I kind of picked it up again and just started writing. It took me probably about 4 years to complete the first draft. And when that was finished, it then took me probably another year to find an agent. And then after that, it's taken more time to find a publisher, basically. So it's been a long, long process. And I'm really excited that I'm finally where I want to be with it, and finally allowed to let people read it.
So, archaeology to writing, what made you to come from that to this?
Well, I think there's an awful lot of crossover. I mean, archaeology really is sort of nine-tenths interpretation. It relies a lot more on your expertise and your experience of particular sites and objects and places. But ultimately, you're creating a narrative for all of us to understand and engage with and enjoy. So there is subtly quite a crossover between the two. And I think that the other reason is that it's obviously a very popular and very evocative subject. So, for example, the main character in Colony is a professor of archaeology at the University of Aberdeen. He, he is an embodiment of what a lot of sort of academic archaeologists would be spending their time doing these days. And I think that along with the archaeology thread is something that people can, it gets them interested, and it's something they can relate to effectively. So it makes a good topic.
So at last, do you have anything to say to the world and to the people who watches this video about your book?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed writing it. I've written what I enjoy to read. I've had very good reviews of it so far. And I hope that at least some of you who are watching will pick up a copy and that you'll enjoy it. If you do, feel free to get in touch with me. You can get in touch via my webpage, which is up there somewhere. Yeah. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Insta, even on Goodreads. I'm all the usual. And I'll be happy to have a chat. If you want to ask me anything, please do. And yeah, I really hope you enjoy.
So at last, have you seen any previous videos of mine?
I have. Yes, I've seen quite a few actually. Yeah. I'm trying to think which one I watched last. That you interviewed a Scottish author recently, and I watched that video. And then there was a student from Belgium as well that you interviewed quite recently. But yeah, I've watched about a dozen.
So what you felt after seeing the video series?
I think it's very interesting. I think it's a great thing that you're doing. I love the enterprise. So I have to say, I think it's a great. You've come up with an idea, you've come up with a model, and you've made it work. And you've amassed a good following, and it's interesting. People are interested in other people and other places. So you've combined the two within your model, and it's intriguing. So yeah, I enjoy the videos, and I'm really proud to have been asked to take part.
It's my pleasure completely. So is there the second book after this, the Colony 2?
There may be Colony 2. There is a second book, but it's a different novel that I've written at the moment, which I can't really talk too much about that one because it's not ready to be published yet. But I do want to write the second one, to the sequel to Colony. So I think it will be good to see what the response is to this first book. So I'll wait and see, whether it keeps getting a good response as it is at the moment, and if lots of people want to read it. And if they do, and I'm getting messages of support, then I'll go ahead and do the second one. So hopefully.
All the best for the book release, and I'm sure it goes well, and a lot of people are going to connect with your experience.
I hope so. Thank you very much, Sai. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin, for giving your valuable time and accepting me to talk with you.
That's no problem at all. It's my pleasure.
Can I put this video on social media and YouTube and internet with your permission?
Yes, indeed, you may.
Thank you so much, man.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Yeah, take care.
Bye-bye.